Are underlying AI models about to completely commoditize your startup? Or are you actually sitting on a multi-trillion-dollar gold mine? Let's get right into this high-density explainer decoding Y Combinator's insider playbook on exactly how to build AI-native service companies.
Look, we have to start with the ultimate high-stakes question, what some call the Sam Altman test. As frontier models get smarter and smarter, does your service get fundamentally stronger, or does the model just completely replace you? If you were just building a thin wrapper on top of an API, honestly, you're dead. To actually survive this shift, you have to own the final delivered outcome.
Section 1, the AI services opportunity. So we are completely skipping the traditional SaaS co-pilot playbook here. If you want to provide a final outcome directly to a customer, your target market absolutely must possess these 4 exact traits. First up, low trust, meaning the customer only cares about the final result, not the process. So you're basically displacing an outsourced vendor. Second, low judgment at the task level, which makes the work highly automatable. Third, a high intelligence threshold for the overall output, meaning it's hard work that requires both humans and models. And fourth, regulation. Now, regulation sounds scary, but that high bar, it actually creates a massive, massive defensive moat for you. A perfect example of this is a YC-backed company called Panacea. They brilliantly weaponize that regulation trait we just talked about. They aren't just selling software. They actually pair expert FDA consultants with an internal AI platform to deliver faster, higher quality approvals for biotech and medtech companies. By navigating that incredibly rigid FDA landscape, they completely own the regulated outcome.
Section 2, the ideal founding team.
Building these types of services requires a totally different founder DNA compared to your standard software startup. You literally need all 3 of these non-negotiable attributes. You need domain fluency, because selling to skeptical legacy buyers requires absolute credibility. You need model fluency, so you can design products that actually ride the AI improvement curve. And finally, and this is a big one, operational rigor. You have to respect variance, throughput, and standard operating procedures because your product is fundamentally in operation. Take a look at this YC-backed AI law firm. They are the perfect mix of these traits. They combine real hardcore legal experience from firms like Cooley and Fenwick with top-tier technical leadership from Casetext. But here's the genius part. They explicitly use integrated shift work to reduce their cycle times. They are engineering the human operation just as strictly as they engineer the software.
Section 3, building the actual product. Okay, in this business model, the human is actually the interface for the customer, and the software's job is to scale the human. But that introduces an existential threat, which is variance. Variance means non-uniform outputs. You have to track your throughput and cycle times, just like you track daily active users in an app. Why? Because inconsistency destroys trust. If your service gives inconsistent results, customers will churn way faster than if you were just a little slower or more expensive than a legacy competitor. Section 4, sales and pricing strategy. Because you are selling actual outcomes instead of software seats, your pilot essentially is your product. And this brings us to a massive operational hazard, the early demand trap. You literally cannot sign up too many customers early on. You absolutely must cap your first pilots to just a handful. If you say yes to everyone before you've built the back-end automation, you're going to drown your team in unscalable human labor, and you will never actually have the time to build the software. Remember, you are directly competing with the cost of labor. So copy these winning models directly. Per unit pricing is clean and easy, and outcome-based pricing perfectly aligns your incentives with the customer. On the flip side, strictly avoid the losing traps. Cost plus pricing will permanently cap your upside, and straight line undercutting, it just makes your service look incredibly cheap and low quality. Section 5, the AI profit model. Let's unpack the P&L statement, because this specific math is exactly where AI service companies will live or die. You must obsess over these 3 exact components of your cost of goods sold from day one: model costs, hosting costs, and human-in-the-loop costs. You need to assign a hard number, a trend line, and a specific owner to every single one of these. Also, be super suspicious of negative margin pilots. They're fine for early learning, but getting hooked on them is a death sentence. And that brings us to AI operating leverage. This is your golden ticket to escaping the notoriously low margins of a traditional agency. It's the core financial bet. As you build out the product and automate more of the manual process, your COGS drop significantly, which in turn drives a massively better gross margin. To put that into perspective, traditional legacy services are pretty much trapped at around a 30% margin limit.
But with AI native services, you are targeting 50+% margins. And get this, you're doing it in a total addressable market that is 2 to 3 times bigger than traditional software. Now, you don't need to hit those numbers on day one for sure, but your trajectory has to believably point to that 50+% target. Section 6, the buy versus build trap. Now, for founders coming from an operating background, there is a huge temptation here. You might think, hey, let's just buy a legacy service business, slap some AI on top, and instantly get revenue. Don't do it. It is a massive trap. Legacy businesses have legacy metrics and completely different performance expectations. Building from scratch is almost always better. The only real exception? Buying a business strictly to acquire a fast regulatory moat, like buying a shell company just to get its insurance licenses.
Section 7, final review and takeaways. All right, let's rapidly lock in the hard data we've extracted today. Take a screenshot of this right now because these are your absolute non-negotiables. Target markets with low trust, low judgment, high intelligence, and regulation. Ensure your team has domain fluency, model fluency, and relentless operational rigor. Track your model, hosting, and human-in-the-loop costs obsessively, and aim your entire P&L toward 50+% margins in a TAM that crushes legacy limits. If you remember just one underlying logic from this entire explainer, make it this. AI services treat the underlying process as the product itself, utilizing AI operating leverage to achieve software-like margins in massive legacy markets. But before we wrap up, we need to settle a hardcore debate. Striking this balance breaks most early-stage founders when it comes to the early demand trap. Do you think deliberately capping your early pilot customers is a genius design move to protect product scale? Or is it an absolute trap that needlessly kills your early cash flow? What's your reasoning? I want to see your data and your strategy on this. Leave a comment below with your take on the early demand trap right now, and I will personally send you our exclusive operational blueprint and checklist to help you avoid the biggest early stage pitfalls. Thanks for diving into this explainer with us. Now go out there and build something massive.